Hey there, it's Ben Hassel here, and here in this tutorial we're going to have a look at how we create the Thug Life animation. If you've not tuned into the channel before, then I create easy to follow Final Cut Pro 10 tutorials, often answering questions that people have asked me either on YouTube or in the classes that I regularly teach. Anything from the very basics to animation, editing, color correction, that'll all be covered on this channel. So if this is the kind of thing you're interested in, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications button so that you get an update whenever I post a new video. So in this video we're going to have a look at the Thug Life animation, and this is really nice because it involves a little bit of animation, timing with music. We're going to look at how we speed up and reverse clips and also create freeze frames, and then we'll also have a look at a little bit of fun color correction as well so that we get this Thug Life animation happening with a little bit of perfect comedy timing. So that's enough of the chit chat. We're going to dive straight in here and start to work through how to create this Thug Life animation. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is make sure that we're all looking at the same screen layout. So we're going to go to Window, Workspaces, and then set our workspace to the default workspace. That means we're all looking at the same version of Final Cut on screen without any extras or things that are hidden. And we'll go ahead now and go to File, New, and Project. So we're going to set up a 1920 by 1080p project. We're running at 30 frames per second or 30p, and we'll call this Thug Life Edit. We haven't got lots of footage, so we're going to throw everything into the same default event that's been created here. All these settings look fine. If you match these, you'll have no problems with your edit. We'll click OK. And then we're going to go ahead and choose our video. Now I think I've had a look at a couple of videos of different cats. We're kind of maxing out on the meme factor here. Cats and Thug Life seem like they're made for each other. So basically we are going to use this cat in the middle. Once I get it down to the timeline, we're going to reverse it so that it looks like the cat is turning to us in a gangster kind of way. Maybe we'll slow-mo it a little bit, we'll freeze frame it, and then we'll have the animation happening. So first thing we'll do is grab this clip and drop it down to the timeline. So once that clip is on the timeline, we're going to zoom in a little bit here so we can see it. We have basically 8 seconds of clip here, and the first thing we need to do is to just take a look at what we've got. So the frame rate is running at 23.98. Now in theory we should have set things up at that frame rate, but because we're doing the animation and stuff and this is just for a meme, we're not going to get too finicky about different frame rates and that kind of stuff. So we're going to keep editing at 30p for this short piece. So we need to now basically trim this down a little bit until we have the look away, and then pretty quickly we want to move into the look towards us. So we're just trimming off this. This is what we're going to play backwards, eyes open, and then, oh, there's a nice pop of the ears there. So we'll trim to around about here, and that will be our freeze frame once we reverse this. So we've got around 3 seconds of clip, so nice and short, which will be good. We don't want our meme to be too long. So we'll select this, grab the button here, and then go to reverse clip, and we'll get this nice reverse of the clip. So the button you want to use to reverse the clip is just above the project name here. If you've hidden the library on the left, the reverse buttons can sometimes move across to the left as well here. So just click there and then look for the reverse clip option if you don't see your libraries on the left, but normally it's situated below here if you can see your libraries. So we'll play this through, and that's pretty good. And I think once those ears pop up, that's when we'll freeze frame it. So once we get to here, we are going to add in a hold. So if we keep our frame there on the timeline, so make sure the white slider is just at that point. If you've chosen a different video, you'll have a different point to freeze frame, and we'll go here and we're going to use a hold option. Now with a hold we can stretch this out as long as we like. So basically now we have the cat there, turns its head, holds, and then the animation begins. Now I think we might be a little bit too slow at the beginning, so I'm going to just speed up this bit here. So I'm just scrubbing through my timeline using the J, K and L keys, which I can use to play backwards, pause with K and play forwards. You don't need to do that. You can just kind of grab the range selection tool, which you can find up here in our tools, and just select out an area of the clip that you want to speed up. But basically I want to double the speed of this. So you can see we've got 3 different levels of speed happening here. So we've got the turn of the head, the freeze frame, and then we're going to have the sunglasses animate on, and basically the music play for let's make this run for around 6 seconds, and then we'll grab our selection tool again and we'll trim this down to here. So we've got a very short kind of 6 or so second animation. So the next thing is the sunglasses animation. We're going to drop our sunglasses onto the timeline here, and we're going to drop them on as a connected clip. So basically we want them to animate on as soon as let's just move that away, as soon as the eyes come up. So around about this spot where the eyes come up, the sunglasses are going to animate down, and then the music's going to kick in. So with the sunglasses here, it's a transparent PNG. So basically we've got the transparency built in there, and what we need to do now is come down to just below our video and select the transform options. And what we're going to do is we're going to position the sunglasses where they're going to finish animating, and then we're going to go and add our first keyframe at that point, then go back in time and then pull our sunglasses off the screen. And we'll talk about the keyframes as we go through everything. So first things first, we are going to scale this down. And we can use this little handle in the middle to rotate things, and we'll have them kind of comedy large. So basically, if we imagine this plays on and we want the animation to happen somewhere between here and here, so in these 5 to 10 frames we want the animation to happen. So to set a keyframe for our animation, we can have our clip selected, and as long as we've got our transform options on, then we can select a keyframe up here. If you don't see the keyframe option up here, don't worry, you can always select your video and come up to the video options, and we can set our transform keyframes up here as well. So really we're looking at position and rotation that we're going to be animating here. So now we'll come back and we're going to come to the beginning of this clip. So I'm going to use the up and down arrows on the cursor here, the cursor keys, the up and down cursor keys, to move to exactly that spot right at the beginning of the sunglasses clip. And now when we drag this up, you can see we create that animation between those 2 spots. Now I'm just going to undo that. I'm going to have a little bit of rotation happening in there as well. So I'm going to rotate it first just before I drag it off, because it's a bit easier to do. So now if we play this through, the animation there is super quick. I think we definitely want the kind of slower animation there. So to slow down your animation, you're going to right click or control and click on your clip and go to show video animation, and that will show the video animation for your clip here. So basically if I move these apart, these keyframes here, it's going to allow me to slow down that animation. So we've got cat turning the head, and then the sunglasses coming on, the music kicking in. That's looking pretty good, and we can refine the timing once we get it all there. So I'm going to trim the end of my timeline down here a bit more, and I'm just using the move tool for that. And actually I've got snapping turned off, which is this option across on the right here, and I just want to trim that down so that it's snapping right to the end of that clip. So we've shown the video animation options there, and we can slow down and speed up our animation by moving these further apart or close together, and we can close that little window by clicking the cross here. So now we'll play this, the sunglasses come on, and now we will drop down our music. Now the Thug Life music that a lot of people are using, is copyrighted, so I've chosen a track I can share with you here. So basically we just zoom in. So I'm using Shift, Command and Plus to zoom in and make the track height a bit bigger, and then Command and minus so that I can see the drop here. I'm going to play this through. So I think I want this to start when this bass starts right at this point. So I'm going to actually grab the blade tool from here and just blade this here, and then I'm going to jump back to my selection tool, and we'll just pull this track back and I want to delete as well the slug that's been created here when I trim that track. So we'll zoom in a little bit more. We're coming back here and we'll just time this so cat turns his head, and then we'll have this bass kind of drop in. We can see where that first kind of bass beat drops in, and we'll pull that back and just add a tiny little fade at the beginning there. Okay, so I think there's a little beat here which I want to time things to. So yeah, it's this little beat there. So I'm just going to move this so it lines up with where the sunglasses come on. Okay, move it back a little bit more. So alright, so we've got that timed up pretty well. So actually I want this to time right with where those sunglasses drop in there, so I'm going to pull this back a little bit more. And we'll just stretch this back a little bit. See how this works out. Oh, I like that. So we'll just have this scraping sort of sound at the beginning here. Perfect. So we've got the sunglasses animation happening there, and then we've got the nice kind of bassy gangster track. Will zoom out a little bit. In fact, if we hit Shift and tap Z, we can see everything, and we can basically trim this down. And I'll just add a little fade at the end there, so it's not too abrupt an end. So that's looking pretty good. So we have the sunglasses come on, and then we'll just count a couple more beats. So and then we'll have our Thug Life come in just a second or two later. So okay, just a little bit sooner there. So the Thug Life text that I've got on here is interesting. So basically it doesn't have the transparency that we have in the sunglasses, but we're going to have a look at how we can composite this onto the text easily. So I'm going to trim this down, and basically we can use the blend modes that we have here to darken the background. So if I select blend mode and darken, then really quickly we can get that to overlay over the background, and we'll actually do a bit of color correction in the background just to kind of accentuate the whole look of this. So we're going to have the Thug Life kind of at an angle on the top left here, and basically we'll select that clip, make sure you've got the full outline of yellow there, grab the transform options here. If you don't see that, then just drop that down and grab transform, and then we can, now this happens sometimes you grab the gap between the library and the viewer here, and you just need to retry it to get the right spot. So we'll have this Thug Life popping up here, and there's not much contrast there at the moment, but we're going to fix that in a minute. So we'll jump in here and we'll use a different option for this. So if we come across the right to our transitions here, we can use some of the movements or the dissolves to actually fade this in. So I'm going to come to movements, and we'll use this kind of fun drop-in effect at the beginning and not the end of our clip here. We'll just see how this plays through. Alright, that's kind of fun. So basically we get a nice little movement of that. I think it's bouncing a bit too much for my liking. I think I might try. So actually we're going to use a basic push option here. So if we scroll down here, we'll find this. Actually, we'll use the slide. See how that plays. So there we go. So basically we can slide this in from the left there. So that's working pretty well. So we've got this nice slide in from the left, so it's sliding right, and then we've got the sunglasses coming in around at the same time, and that's working pretty well. Let's turn the volume down here a little bit. So basically now we've got this playing in, sliding in from the left, and if you want to get a specific duration for your transition, you can select it and hold down Control and tap D, and that will bring up the duration there. We could type in 30, which means that it will be exactly 1 second. Okay, so you can see it kind of sliding in there. And what we want to do here is just add a little bit of a color tint to our cat here, and we'll use a color effect on there. So if we grab our effects here, we'll come to color and we'll add on a color board. Now the reason for doing this is that in some earlier versions of Final Cut Pro, such as 10.3 or 10.2, you need to actually drag the color board onto the timeline. So we can actually access the color board from up here, this triangle. We can also drag it on as well. So once we've added a color board, we can jump in and modify it, and this allows us to bump the saturation, desaturate it in different parts of the image, and kind of have some fun with it. If we go to the exposure, we can increase it and decrease it. We can blow it out basically, and we can also do some fun things with the effects here, pulling and pushing these around. So let's reset those. What we want to do here is we want to actually add a keyframe here for our color board. Okay, so that means we're keyframing all of these, and if we go forward a couple of frames here, okay, then we can grab the color option here. We'll pull this all the way up. We'll come forward another couple of frames and we'll pull this all the way down, and maybe we'll pull these around. We're just adding some kind of strange effects to this, but it's going to animate it, so we'll see we'll get a kind of flicker effect when we finish up with this. So we'll just pull these around and come back a few frames, and we'll come to exposure and we'll kind of blow out the blacks a little bit, and then we'll come ahead, and then as Thug Life comes on, we're going to go to saturation and just drop the saturation down and bring the exposure kind of back a little bit. But what we're trying to do here is make sure the whites aren't completely white, and we'll just lift up the blacks a little bit so that we get a little bit of contrast between the black and the background, and that will mean we'll get the same with the type as well. When it pops on, we'll get that contrast with the type. So you can see we kind of push things and pull things around quickly there, but we've got a little bit of a different look there to our video. So if we come back here, play this through, we get a little flicker, and then the music kicks in. So let's just pop the volume back up. So that's kind of looking quite cool. We could play around with it some more. One thing I did think was we can add a second color board on here. So if we use colorize, we'll add colorize on there. And if we then come to our video options here, and to colorize, we're going to remap the white, kind of increase the intensity of this. We'll remap the red, the black to red, and the white to kind of a, let's go for a purple, and we'll throw the intensity right up here. And what we're actually going to do with our color effect here is when the freeze frame kicks in, so I'm going to zoom in on my timeline here, okay, we're going to add this. So basically, as the ears pop up there and the sunglasses are coming down, we are going to add a shape mask. And with the shape mask that we have here, whoops, we need to turn off our transform options here. With the shape mask we have here, we can make this a harder edge by putting this in, and we are going to sort of try to make this match the eyes. So if we modify the angle here, get this in here, and we'll increase the zoom level. We can use this little red square to move around. We'll add a little bit of like a purple tint on the eyes here as the sunglasses kind of pop down. And if we add another shape mask here, zoom back to fit, we can move this across here, and we will zoom in again, come across that right hand eye, and actually we need to zoom out a little bit so we can modify this. Okay, so basically now we've got the cat is ears are gonna prick up, and this is the point where we want the eyes to kind of turn red. So they're only red for a few seconds before the sunglasses and the flashing lights kind of pop up. So basically around about this point we want them to be red. So I'm going to come back to my colorize options here, and basically we can keyframe the intensity. So wherever you see this little diamond, you can keyframe things. So I'm going to basically have this pop up pretty quickly from 0, so that means it has no intensity, to the eyes lighting up. Okay, and actually we'll just feather this a little bit more. So we'll zoom in on these eyes a bit more. We're just going to feather these out. So the outside line here is the feather, and then the inside line is the other color. In fact, let's just try remapping the black just to black. Yeah, that's going to work a bit nicer. So if we just actually change the red of the eyes, and we grab these shape masks, we'll just be colorizing the eyes rather than the outside of the eyes, because of the way the darken of the black works there. So I'm going to increase the intensity. That's nice and intense. We've got both our shape mask there, and now if we click away, come back to fit, and we will do Shift and Z so we can see the whole thing, and this is what we've created. So very silly obviously, but there's lots of cool animation techniques in there, lots of keyframing ideas, lots of ideas for how you can use movement. And actually I think I would probably take this off and just keyframe the position. So if we add keyframing for our thug life as well, and then come back, we'll pull this away, and we can change the rotation there as well. Now we've just got a kind of nice simple animation on there. And the nice thing about animation with the keyframes is that if we right click, we can then show the video animation, and we can really quickly kind of control how that animation, how fast that animation is running. So we want those to snap on, and then as soon as they snap on, we want the thug life to really start to animate in. So we'll just pull this back a little bit. All right. So you can see we've got a few different layers there, and a few different techniques for timing up the music with our edits, for animating things on using keyframes and using the transform tool options. There's kind of a lot jam-packed in there, so if you have to run back through and play the video at 75% the speed or half the speed to make sure you can go through all the steps clearly, then please do. And I hope you found that tutorial useful, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.